Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Onward and Upward podcast, episode 7.
We gained some elevation.
Yes, we did. 60. What did he say?
6,800 something.
6,800 feet up in the air, where we're staying in Yaak, Montana, is at about 3,500. I think is what Dave said. So we came up a little over 3,000 feet. If you believe it, our senior pastor Paul Turek biked up to this mountain. I kid you not, he biked quite a ways. He's actually walking over here right now. He might join us. We'll see. But welcome to another episode of the Onward and Upward podcast. As always, we always want to start with who we are. Our hope is that we would help you move onward in your daily walk and move upward in your relationship with Christ. And if we can accomplish just that with this podcast, you and I would be incredibly happy and satisfied. And that's what we want for anyone, to not stand still or be stagnant in their faith or in their walk, to not let the hard things of this life pull you back, but instead with God's strength and courage, not our own, and relying on Him, press in and move onward, right?
Absolutely. Continue
to put another foot in front of the other. We always talk about Philippians 3, 12 through 16, and just love that scripture and Paul talking about it. You know, I always bring it. And if these things are not clear to you, I pray that He will make them clear to you. You know, if you disagree, Absolutely. That's what he says. If you disagree, I pray that He'll make that clear to you. Just God's truth is everlasting. And yeah.
And I think it's appropriate that we're literally taking the podcast onward and upward. Absolutely. Yeah. So,
we have accomplished every goal we can with this podcast.
So far, yeah.
By physically moving onward and upward to film episode 7. It's been a joy so far, Ben, for you to join me. Thank you for being a co-host of this podcast. And
it's a pleasure to be a part of it.
Oh, man. So we just wanted to share a little bit at the beginning here. It's not really funny, though I think we maybe have a funny story or two, of our journey up here. So we're up at Hawkins Lake. It's an alpine lake, meaning it's up in the mountains. It's supplied by the water that comes down off the mountains from the snow melt and things like that. And so no river. It's not a river fed or spring fed. It's naturally here from the mountains.
Every winter.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And
gorgeous.
So we're staying at the Moore's Cabin in Yaak, Montana. We left on Sunday. Oh, a fish right behind you. I bet that got caught in camera. I hope it did. Awesome. We've been fishing. It's been good. But we left Sunday at 1:30.
Yeah.
And drove the 12 hours. It's a little bit of a hike. Drove the 12 hours up here. Smooth sailing, I'd say. I drove, I think the first 5.
Yeah.
And I think you drove, or first 6, and you drove the last 6.
About half and half, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? Haver's about 6 hours away, isn't it?
Yeah.
I drove us to Haver, and then you drove us the rest of the way. And a good journey. Nothing exciting until we got here.
Yeah.
We got in late, whatever. We went to bed. That was fine. Hot. I guess that's something notable is this week, our average temperature this week is 102 degrees. Mm-hmm. That's our average high.
Not normal for Yaak.
Oh, my gracious. Last year, this was all snow.
Yeah.
Just and a wet. Calendar year earlier. Yeah. It was wet. It was cold. Do you remember when I stood in front of the fire and had the steam coming off of me because I was so wet? Coming up on the motorbikes. This is drastically different. Our average low this week is 64. That's our low. So at night, we've got all the windows open, got those fans running, no AC, and that's all right.
Yeah, it's not normal for the nighttime temperature to be that high, and the cabin. So and we say cabin a little bit tongue in cheek. If you haven't got a chance to come up here and hang out with the Moores and what they've invested in, it's good. It's a gorgeous house. It's a gorgeous property. I think
we're gonna have an episode or two.
Yeah, we'll be showing it off. So
So we're not alone up here.
No, and it's
surprisingly so. You would think.
And she's not that close to us. She's a long ways away on the water, so that's fun.
You would think coming all the way up here, you'd be alone, but somehow you're not. But that's all right.
That's the beauty of it. Mm-hmm.
Yep. It's been a lot of fun. So prior to coming, you guys knew I cut my foot real bad.
Yeah.
And so thankful that that is healing quickly. My foot's in the water and feeling just fine, but
we were good. I was going to suggest doing a show and tell, but actually it's healed so well. There's not much to show now.
There's not much. So. It still hurts. It's bruised, but it's doing well. Yeah, I got to cut on two big cuts on the bottom of my foot, but it's doing all right. It's alive. It's well, and thankful, very thankful, because I was bummed. That happened last Thursday. Mm-hmm. So today's Tuesday. We left on Sunday, and the Thursday before that, cut it really bad. I was, you gotta be kidding. Right before we're about to go hiking, fishing, wilderness, it's like the last thing you want is your foot getting hurt.
Yeah. And in some ways that was God putting the brakes on you maybe a little bit.
Yeah, right. Chill. So, but yeah, so you and I get up Monday morning to go.
Well, it was a great plan. So the plan is, why buy all this food in Sydney area, right, and throw it in the van and haul it all the way.
And then try to keep it cold.
Last year we went all the work, little bit of shopping at the grocery stores. They got great grocery stores here in Libby and in Troy. So we done. Well, we'll just do that. So we got to get down, and we're not going to take the van. So
we're going to go in style.
Yeah, exactly.
Dave's got that Nissan Datsun 280Z.
Yeah, it's a beautiful car.
Yeah, very nimble, and
doesn't get driven enough.
It doesn't. Nope. And yeah, you tell the story.
Well, so we get into the shop. Of course, Dave's in there getting it all ready and checking it out. And I don't know when the last time they drove it. It was a couple weeks ago. Did they even drive it?
He had a battery maintainer on it.
Maintainer on in there and stuff. And I kind of showed up late to the party there, just wanting to get my stuff and get ready to go in. And I had some work things to do. When we had cell phone coverage, that's the other thing that's not really readily available up here.
We have zero service. Yeah. In fact, randomly in the middle of the lake, I picked up service for about a minute.
It'll blip
my
in
phone
and
dinged,
blip out. Yep.
And then I went to look at it. I already lost the service.
Yeah.
So,
which is, I don't know, in and of itself an awesome thing. But that's not what we want to talk about. So, get ready, and Harry's in the driver's seat, and you're getting ready to fire up the Datsun, and
nothing. There's not even
juice,
a light.
Nothing. And so obviously the battery tender wasn't working, or something was wrong with the battery. And so somehow, it was great because Dave had a jumper kit with, and one of those battery ones that we could take with. So which was handy. So we went ahead and used that, fired right up. So it was definitely a battery issue. It wasn't anything else that was a problem.
But a battery issue.
We proceeded to tootle off to Libby, the back way, and the gorgeous drive, and had a few.
What's that called? Peak Creek?
I think so. Peak Creek. Yeah. Yeah. So had a great drive, no problems there. It wasn't overheating. But last year when we were driving it, we kind of noticed that the clutch was slipping a little bit, but not too bad. Manageable, But there was something a little bit off with the clutch.
And it was a hot day.
It was a hot day
yesterday.
As
we already said, it was. By the time we were driving, it was up in the mid 90s.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But we made it into town, got the groceries, got everything set up, and proceeded to get ready to head home. And you said right away, "Oh, this isn't good."
Yep. Yeah, I put it in gear. Yeah. And I let the clutch all the way out, and we were barely moving.
Yeah.
It's like, what is happening?
Yeah, not good. So anyways, thought we were going to make it, and it's not like it was super high elevation here, but where the cabin is, but it's definitely got a few hills
that we got to climb
to get back to the cabin from Libby. And so called Dave and had a little bit of a backup plan in place, but Harry worked his magic with his clutch foot, and we made our own on the way home. So it was good. It was a good trip. Yeah.
I was very nice to
about a half hour later than what we wanted. But.
Yeah. When we got to Libby, we put a brand new battery in. So then we at least didn't have to worry about that. It could start on its own, no problem. And there was a couple of hills that felt terrible. It's a 70-mile-an-hour road, and we were going about 15 miles an hour. Yeah, big old semis coming and passing you. And that's a little scary on a mountain road. Yeah. Super skinny, no shoulder. And that big old semi pulls out from behind you to whip past you. But we got over the big hills. Dave did start coming down just in case. But yeah, we made the climb all the way back, rode that momentum. We had some fun driving on those corners because we didn't want to lose speed. So we went a little faster maybe than what most people would be comfortable with, but we had to keep the momentum. If I didn't keep momentum, we wouldn't get over the next rise. So.
And that is our story, and we'll stick with it.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
It was fun. So it was a unique adventure, and for the most part, we haven't had too many other hiccups and things like that. The one of the motorbike's battery was dead when we tried to go, but we just push started that, and away we went, and got the battery charged on the way up here. So.
Well, part of the allure of leaving Sydney, Montana, at one end of Montana, the far eastern edge of Montana,
going all the way to the other side,
far northwest corner of Montana, is to get away and to relax and have fun, and part of that's the adventure. And so sometimes adventure comes in the unintended package.
Well, and to put it in perspective, right? I can drive from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which is on the far east side of Wisconsin, all the way across to the western side of Minnesota in the same time it takes for us to drive from the eastern part of Montana to the western part of Montana. Yeah. So we can drive across 2 states that aren't small, right? Minnesota, Wisconsin are not small states. They're not gigantic, but
we're not talking East Coast, Rhode Island type stuff.
Yeah. So it is a bit of a journey, but man, more than worth it. I was just out on Dave has a little blow up pontoon that you can use a couple oars and toodle around. And
where did he go?
He's right over there, over there in the corner.
Side,
shot a little video myself while I was out on the water, just gorgeous. But yeah, surprised. I know you said it, Paul said it too. It's like we're this high up and it's still warm.
Yeah, it's a hot week this week.
A nice little breeze is coming by, which is nice. Hopefully not getting picked up by the mics, but still I'm like right on the edge of really hot.
Yeah.
But yeah, so one of the main things, right, of the positives of coming on a retreat like this, right, is the opportunity for rest. And so that's what I wanted to. We're hoping to do another couple episodes up here in Yaak, Montana, but I thought it was very fitting that this would be the start of our maybe 2 or 3 episode series here in Yaak, Montana for the podcast, because really that's what this offers more than anything else. Being up here offers the amazing opportunity for rest. And how often do we discount the need, not the want or the desire, but the need for real rest?
Yeah, and you were just talking before we went live on the video about just the fact that it's really hard to enter into true peaceful rest when you're not changing your environment where you are, who you're with, right? It's such a big part of it, and
we try, and we can get a little bit.
Our jobs, it's all good. That's all good, but when you need rest in order to really disengage the brain, you need to really get away. And this retreat is. Technically we leave on a Sunday, we get back on a Saturday. So if you count travel days, it's 7 days.
100%.
And you kind of need those days in order to really fully unplug a little bit mentally and I think even physically to be able to let your body fully relax and settle into some full-time rest.
Well, and I know
it just really is great to recharge your batteries, not to
use
a battery point, but
recharge your batteries is incredibly important, as we know.
Especially if you want to make it from one town to another. Yeah.
Well, I know you got a piece of scripture here. And you and I talked about it. It's just it's such a simple truth that we forget so easily, that it is incredibly difficult to find rest in the same atmosphere that you have busyness. It doesn't mean that you can't. It doesn't mean you can't get creative, and you can't find times like, for instance, right when we put our kids to bed. That's time that Tesha and I, my wife and I, that we try to kind of hold sacred. Of man, from that 8 o'clock, if we're doing good, 8 o'clock. Yeah. If the night's not doing so good, 8:30, 9:30. But if we're doing good, 8 o'clock, and from about 8 to 10:30 is just time for her and I. If we want to go watch a movie, if we want to play a game, if we want to just sit and talk, if we want to, sometimes we make a delicious dessert or something, but with little kids around, they're like, oh, I want some of that. Yeah. It's like, nah, sugar before bed you can't. So we take mercy on them and we wait. We pull out the sugar after they go to bed, right?
Yeah.
I feel like it's always a little bit cruel the times we do it out in front of them, like, nope, you can't have it.
And you and Tesha extend that mercy by making sure you're consuming all of the sweets.
Yes, so they don't even see it. Exactly.
They don't get tempted.
Right.
It's not a problem.
Right. So technically that rest is being found in the same space. However, the atmosphere is very different, right? And I guess that's my point. Not the physical location necessarily. It's the atmosphere in which that you're trying to find rest. If you're trying to find rest in an atmosphere that typically is where your busyness lies, it's very difficult. And yet so often we do that. We try to find rest in the same atmosphere, same space as where we have busyness, and then we kind of feel even more exhausted from that effort of trying to do that, and then throw our hands up in the air and give up. Yeah. And so go ahead and read what you got, because you talked about it earlier, and man, I think this is so pertinent to our discussion.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to read this section out of Matthew that we've been talking about it. Matthew chapter 11, verse 28. So then Jesus said, "Come to me, all of you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and let me teach you, because I am humble and gentle at heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy to bear, and the burden I give you is light." And so,
where is that from again?
Yeah, that's Matthew chapter 11, verse 28, and on to the end of the chapter. So, and I appreciate the fact that God's wanting us to live that daily and find that time of rest daily. But in some ways, when you can separate, and I'm even going to call this deep rest time. This is this time where you really can push into full-time rest, and so much of that is getting with Him. Yeah. And we're going to be going through Romans this week, and as we're at retreat, and just wanted to be open what God is talking to us. But I know personally, I've got some other devotions I'm going through, and I know that Dave is, and I'm sure you are. And
totally.
There's several of us that are really taking this time to be intentional about wanting to be under His teaching and starting to understand that. And then we can take that back, and that understanding of not only the value of rest, but also how to rest, and what things is he imparting to us during this time. Well, we can start employing that back in our daily life. And so it makes the short bits of rest and the intentional rest we're doing in our normal routines much more effective.
Yeah. Come all you who are weary, right? Like, again, no, you don't have to drive 12 hours to find rest. And please know, anyone who's listening, that's not what we're advocating. And we'll get to the uniqueness of this space and all that. But this important of changing your atmosphere to finding rest and coming before Him. So, that scripture you just read of having that self-awareness that you're weary, that you're tired, that you're heavy laden, right? Having that self-awareness, it starts there. Sometimes we go so hard that we lose sight of really what's going on. And then we have these other circumstances that come up where we're really testy, or everyone is just getting on our nerves. That is a red flag, right? It's an opportunity for you to go, ding, ding, ding. Maybe it's not them that has the issue. Maybe it's me. And it doesn't mean necessarily that you're sinning.
No, I don't think that's the case.
But it's this idea of, if you're not rested, and better yet, if you're not resting in Him, in Christ, you're going to find yourself with a shorter fuse, less grace given, less compassion, because you're going to be so tight and wound up. And I think one of the things so important to find an atmosphere, and find that rest with Christ.
So much of what I try to do when we do any kind of retreat, and certainly it's not something unique to me, but it's this idea of reviewing life a little bit, stepping back from some of the minutiae, so you can actually see the bigger picture, and then looking at those areas of life that you're like, this is a burden that I shouldn't be carrying. This is why am I worried about it? And hand that off to Christ and let Him deal with it, and really start offloading things that are weighing us down and causes us to be tired and weary, and that's part of that action of trading, because he's God. He can handle anything. That's what's so awesome about it. He's got broad shoulders, and he's got His own way of dealing with things, and is much better at it than you or I or anybody else could be. So it's humbly understanding our position once again in life, in relation to Him, in relation to how our responsibilities are being lived out. So that's so much of it.
We've talked about the atmosphere and the need to find that space where you can find rest, and finding it outside of the busy atmosphere. That often we end up trying to do that, and then we get discouraged and drop it. And how important it is that we aren't finding rest in ourselves, but we're finding rest in Him. And again, you have another scripture here that we talked about ahead of time. That why don't you share that as well? Because I think that speaks to this a lot as well.
Yeah. So one of the things that that every Christian should be thinking about is how do I look at the life of Christ and learn from him what he was doing during his time here. And obviously the Gospels do a good job of picking up quite a bit of how he lived his life. I've got a whole bunch of questions for him when I get to heaven about
for things. Real.
But anyways, I'm in Mark 6, and I'm trying to make sure
Mark 6.
Yep. Yeah, but he just gets done feeding the 5,000, and they, they pick up all the extra baskets of food and whatever, and so, anyways, immediately after the feeding the 5,000, Jesus insisted that his disciples, and this is verse 45, get back into the boat and head across the lake to Bethsaida, while he sent the people home. So he's like, okay, party over. Disciples going in the boat across the lake, and after telling everyone goodbye, he went up into the hills by himself to pray. And we see
real shocker that Jesus is demonstrating what we should be doing.
Exactly. But it's also, I think it was essential to him, and even though, yes, he is the Son of God, but he's fully the man. And so he's understanding he just had another intense day of ministry and giving, and he needed to get away and get up with his Father and spend some time up in the hills and up in the mountains. So anyways, goes on to say that late that night, the disciples were on their boat in the middle of the lake, and Jesus was alone on the land, and he saw that they were in serious trouble and haven't made a lot of progress. And so about 3 o'clock in the morning, Jesus came toward them walking on the water. Now, I'm not saying that he couldn't have walked on the water the day before. I'm not saying any of that, but I do find it interesting that it seems like every time he comes off the mountain and off of a retreat time with the Father and praying with the Father, he's notched it up a level in his ministry, his effectiveness and his power, and what he's doing. And
well, he was operating within flesh, right? Like he understood that as he is God,
he's limited
in man, right? God incarnate in flesh. That the flesh brings that need for rest and sustenance and things like that, right? So I love that you bring that up, that Jesus demonstrates one of the most important things in life, that if we want effectiveness, if we desire to be used to the fullest, it requires rest. It requires good rhythm. That isn't just this, sporadic rest, but really this overarching rhythm of rest over and over. And it can be so hard to find in the busyness, and that I've got 4 kids. I got a 5th on the way. I know busyness better than most, I think, or at least different than most.
Well, just the amount of energy that your boys bring to the table in any particular interaction is awesome and fun. But but
I got to know my limits.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. Dave paddled into the camera. It was good to see you, Dave. You want to wave? Camera's got you. You want to paddle? You want to paddle in and say anything? You want to add to this discussion of rest?
So Dave was telling us earlier today that he gets up to his Yaak cabin about 4 times a year, and maybe some years more or less. But this really is your rest.
Your sanctuary?
Place, right?
Can we call it a sanctuary?
Yeah, it is.
So if you get close enough, I'll let you get on the mic and you can actually say something.
We'll put a mic in your face. I went and stepped on a sharp rock and bruised my foot again.
I'll try not to do a backflip into the water.
No backflips, Ben.
Yeah.
No, too rocky. There we go. If you turn him into this gap here, we're gonna keep this whole thing. I don't want to edit any of it out.
No, I think it's good.
Your journey in is what's important. Do you want to add to the conversation of rest? Maybe what do you see as important to it?
It's too hard, and I had to learn the hard way a lot in my life how important rest is. Now that I've learned, I try to be intentional about getting more rest, and sometimes I manage that, and other times I don't. But.
Do you ever fight anything when you're trying to get that rest? Like, do you fight the urge to not rest, or do you find that when you try to find rest, you have more roadblocks that crop up or anything?
Well, we had a good day yesterday, and I was tired from the trip, and the late night.
Yeah.
And we all went to bed, and I actually went in and took off my shorts and then like started thinking about today and what I didn't have ready. And it's like, I should go check the patch on the boat, and I'm going to gather some stuff because I was afraid I'd sleep in, and then you guys would be waiting on me. So,
and who came and woke us up?
I did. Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
So, well, someone put a fan in my face this morning. Who was that? Was that you?
It was being windy.
Yeah. That's how I woke. I woke up to taking the big fan and cranked up to 11, and he put it right in front of my face, so I couldn't breathe. I woke up going,
it's 8 o'clock.
Oh, okay. I'm up.
Yeah, like I guess for me the hardest part is to unplug, to shut my mind down.
Yeah.
And to shut my mind down, to stop thinking about life and worries and stresses and that stuff. Like, I only spent like 10 minutes and gathered my stuff last night.
And then you got rest.
And then I felt better, right? I did.
Yeah.
I felt better and fell asleep.
Yep.
So, and woke up to somebody's weird alarm that wouldn't shut off. I couldn't figure out which one of you guys is using that alarm.
Yeah. And then it ended up being a fire alarm.
Yeah.
But no fire.
No fire,
just malfunction.
I didn't know that though, and you got it shut off somehow, and I went back to sleep a little and got up. Well, I know the coffee's done at 7, so then I got a cup of coffee, and like as I'm getting out there, like, what's that big ladder doing in the living room? It didn't dawn on me the fire alarm either. I did not think of that right away.
Right. Let's be honest. Middle of the night trying to shut that off. You ain't wasting time putting the ladder away.
No,
to bed you go. Yeah, we'll deal with it in the morning.
And I was getting a muffin and drinking my coffee and saw the fire alarm on the counter. It's like, and then actually was disappointed because they're fairly new. There was an old one I had that you just put a battery in. It had been there for years. So. But
we still found rest.
Yes. Yeah.
Against all odds.
Well, we were just talking. Sometimes it takes a few days to kind of fully decompress from the normal work and the normal lifestyle and to really get into a restful state. So your average trip out here is not that long, though.
No.
You get here for weekends, maybe?
A week or 6 days. We've been here 10 days before. We keep hoping we would have been here longer this trip, this June, and then that storm damage in Sydney there. Stuff came up. I couldn't leave yet, so neither could Terry. So, but yeah, it'd be nice to come for 2-3 weeks to get tired of it. I guess to see if I could get tired of it.
Can you get to a place where you want to go home? Right. Do you want to leave? I don't know. It'd take a while. It'd take a while, Dave.
Right. That's what.
I've never gotten to that point. But we haven't spent 3 weeks up here.
You can't tell me. I can't tell you how awesome it is, how uplifting for me that you guys came again. Right? Like that. That you feel it here too. It's a special place. It's right. Like you saw it once. I remember.
I love coming.
You told me after we got here last year. You said, to be honest. I heard you talk about this place, but I thought, what's a cabin without a lake? I don't see how it could be that cool. But he came out that last
the ignorant Minnesota boy. Okay, that's all that was. Yep.
And he comes to me and tells me, this is what I thought coming out here. Like, what could be the big deal? Wow, this is cool.
Yep. So. Well, yeah, from floating on the river to the rapids to the river fishing, the motorbikes, the hiking, Hawkins Lake. There's plenty to get lost in, I think is the big thing. And that's what we were talking about. Yeah. I'm sitting out on the raft in the middle of this lake and just in awe and lost in the splendor of my King. Amen. Right? When we talk about it, you can find rest in a variety of places, and you need to find a place for rest in your daily walk, right? Again, our podcast, Onwards and Upwards. To move onward in your daily walk, right? Which means your daily walk isn't coming to this lake every day, typically for vast majority of people, right? And to move onwards in your daily walk, move upwards in your relationship with Christ. But coming to something like this, right? We call it a men's retreat. Call it what you want. It's a chance to remove yourself from this busy atmosphere and to stand before your King in the splendor of what he has created and be lost in him That's why I found myself lost in him. I wasn't thinking about church stuff or ministry. I wasn't thinking about my family. I wasn't thinking about the hike back down. I wasn't there or the drive back down, right? I wasn't thinking about anything. I was just simply, my mind was incapable of focusing on anything else but God's creation here in front of me, and that I am his created and his beloved. And the opportunity I found for all this weight to shed away, maybe the mistakes I've made or things like that, the things that occupy our brain. And you were talking about that earlier, or Dave, you said that too, to be able to let your brain shut off and just be able to be in his presence. I was in his presence in the middle of that lake, and this lake, and what a beautiful thing to have, and feel so fortunate and lucky to be able to do that.
So the other thing that I think is important to know is that rest doesn't mean you have to be still and not doing anything.
Totally. I find rest playing Xbox games with my brothers who live back in Minnesota.
So rest is really is a refocus, and it's a difference in stress level and burden and whatever else. And I can tell you, Dave and I were out, and I was benefited from Dave and I and Harry bringing the boat up to the lake, and so I got to fish, and Dave got to row and do a little fishing, and it's just it's a super enjoyable, restful experience to be out on this water, in this environment, and be active. You're doing things, but it's definitely a recharging thing, and a good thing, and a fun thing. And it's as a believer, it's impossible to be in an environment like this and not be thinking about the splendor and the awesomeness that this is just a mere reflection of how good our Father is.
So we're talking about rest, right? The first step is being aware of when you need that rest, and building in a sense of rhythm of rest. I don't think that was a rockfish.
No,
I think
was a fish.
A rock bass. I think that was an actual fish there.
Really big fish jumper.
No, that was Paul throwing a rock. But so that's the first part, right? Is being self-aware and realizing when you're weary, heavy laden. The second piece is finding that atmosphere that separates yourself from the busyness. And again, not for yourself. Though you know you're going to receive this amazing blessing of renewal and refreshment, but to come before the Father in an atmosphere where you can hear from the Father, right? Where he can renew you and bring strength. Where you have the opportunity finally to lay things at his feet. I don't know about you, but there's rare a time that I'm able to lay things at God's feet genuinely, to process it, think about it, and then to intentionally go, I'm laying this at your feet. This is a burden I've been carrying. That happens most often in this moment of rest, where you're able to process those things, and God shows you those things, right? And then spend that time in him, and just let him fill you back up. And the amazing blessing, the fruit that comes from that is just what you shared in Mark 11, of how our bodies, the way he's created it, when we find this rest, our capacity to serve and minister and be a light and love and reach and teach and care explodes. That's not an accident.
No.
As we sit in this creation, that's not an accident. That's God's design. He's so excited for when we get rest. Though how often do we feel like it's laziness or a waste of time, or it's taken away from this over here, and God's just going, I have something so amazing I want to do, but you need rest to go do it. Get some rest. And then on the other side, amazing things happen.
Can you speak a little bit to the fact that you and Terry come up here quite a bit, like we said, 3 or 4 or 5 times maybe a year. This is the only time that you got a bunch of guys up here as a retreat, and we're purposeful about what we're doing here, right? A lot of times you guys are coming up to do maintenance and other things, and you're also enjoying the time up here. Yeah. But what is? Talk a little bit about the value of having, not only one-on-one time with the Lord, but also have it in a group setting.
Oh, definitely. So, last year was the first time that I'd had been quite like this, right? I've hunted up here with a friend that's quite a bit older than me, and not a believer, which is a good time. We go back and forth. He knows my faith, and he respects my faith, and he doesn't chastise me, but he does try to talked me into that Big Bang stuff, and so, and I spent a little time there. It was, that was years ago, 6-7 years ago. And then I've had another guy come fishing with me, but he could only stay for 2 days. And that's it. Otherwise, it's my wife and me. And then she's good about, she'll come fishing with me, but I know that's not her thing. And just I guess the blue in me, I feel bad when I know somebody isn't enjoying something as bad as much.
So it's hard for you to go do it.
Yeah. Like quote the boys, it's just like you couldn't see me. I was worried. I was looking around me. Can you see me? I just had this grin driving the motorcycle.
Yeah, I know you had bugs in your teeth.
Bugs in my teeth. Like the cool air. The more it's just like knowing we're coming here. There wasn't a cloud in the sky. Just the joy, just feeling sheer joy at how fun it is. And I don't know, you don't get that in your normal day to day. You get splashes of it here and there, and go to the lake with the youth and stuff. But
there's something unique.
It's totally unique
about coming to these different spaces of God's creation.
And then I second what you said about sitting in the middle of this lake and just looking around. And just in total awe, unspeakable awe, and then realizing that I'm a little part of His creation too.
Yep.
And
that I get to be a part of this. I'm afforded the opportunity, the privilege that He would want to use me in this amazing place.
Be able to be spoken into my life by you guys, and I mean, you can't beat it. I mean, everybody should do this for their
I so agree.
Heart and soul.
I so agree.
I did it. Honestly, it was way better than I ever imagined it would be. This was the idea. It really was. It really is.
We had a good crew last year. Had a few less people come this year, but everybody's got different schedules and stuff.
Hey, coming off a COVID year and stuff like that, it made it a little more difficult.
I need to get it going.
Yeah.
But the nice thing, and we'll probably get some more details on another podcast, maybe from the cabin itself. But what's awesome about your cabin is, you guys are up here, a little bit, but you've also got it available. And so we'll be talking details about that, but showing off the cabin a little bit, I think, in another podcast.
That's right.
Yeah. So.
Well, thank you, Dave, for joining us for our...
drown a maggot. I'm
going to go catch a flopper?
As soon as I put a maggot on the lure, I'm catching them. So.
Really?
That made a big difference.
Well, you're welcome.
Yeah, thanks for buying.
I'm glad maggots are good for something.
All right. They're hard to get on a hook, though.
That's right. Well, as Dave exits, we're going to exit. So thank you for joining us for episode 7, talking all about rest. And there's plenty more that we could talk about, right? And but I feel like this is a good place for us to rest. And find our continued rest here in this amazing place.
Until episode 8.
Until episode 8, yeah. We're looking forward to it. You got a bee on you. Oh, flew away. Yeah. That'll interrupt your rest. Yeah. But thank you for joining us for the Onward and Upward podcast, episode number 7 of season 2, Rest. Why do we need it? And so, again, we want to help everyone move onward and upward in their daily walk and in the relationship with Christ. Please smash the like button, hit follow, follow our page on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. We have our podcast available on every major podcast app. Please follow, like, and most importantly, share. We want to get this message of hope and encouragement and love to as many people as we can. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.